Hello, everyone. Hello, Spell Squad, and welcome to the free live magic Q&A tea party with Madame Pamita. That's me. That meets up every Sunday at 5 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Mountain, 7 p.m. Central, and 8 p.m. Eastern. We record this as a live, free, absolutely free, no money exchanged, Zoom meeting every Sunday, and then we post the recording later on my YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/Madame Pamita. You can find all the past episodes there. If you're watching this as a replay on YouTube or somewhere else and you want to be in the super secret clubhouse with us asking these questions, it doesn't cost anything to be here. It's free. You can join the Spell Squad to get in, and to do that, all you have to do is go to spellsquad.com, sign up, you'll get on my email list, and then you'll get notified with the link to the Zoom meeting and also who's going to be my special guest for that week. So you'll get that information along with some other tidbits like articles and information, spells, and all kinds of cool magical goodies that come in through your email box. So you want to go on over to spellsquad.com and get that going so that you can join us here live if you would like to. In case you just stumbled upon this and you're wondering who I am, again, I am Madame Pamita, and you can find me at parlorofwonders.com. That's my website, PARLOUR of wonders.com. You can also find me on YouTube. You can find me on Instagram. You can find me on Facebook. I'm an author. I've written a book called Madame Pamita's Magical Tarot, and I have a new book coming out in October called The Book of Candle Magic, which I am in the process, the eye-watering process of combing through. Kerri knows what I'm talking about. And finding all the mistakes.
I'm doing it too, so.
Oh my gosh, we can commiserate together. On my website, there's tons and tons and tons of free information about candle magic and about all kinds of other magic. You can find that if you go onto my site, Parlor of Wonders, look under instruction, you'll see videos, you'll see blog articles, you'll see what else will you see? You'll see my blog, a link to my blog, which I have a blog about Slavic magic called Baba Yaga's Cottage, which is over on Pagan. All kinds of goodies over there. You can find it all. Oh, my podcast, you can find it all over there under instruction. Lots and lots of free information about magic, answers a lot of your questions, and you can go over there and get a free magical education. We love free. So without further ado, I want to tell you about my guest, Carrie Connor. She's a high priestess of the Gathering Grove, which is a family-friendly, earth-based spiritual group. And she's been practicing her craft for over 35 years. She's the author of 6 books. So she's been through the eye-watering process of going through and finding the mistakes. She's the author of 6 books and currently working on number 7. Is that the one you're editing right now?
Actually, yeah, this one is number 7, and I'm editing that, and then I'm writing number 8.
Oh my gosh. I'm editing number 2 and writing number 3 at the same time. And that is also, I feel your pain, lady, but you've been through it more than once.
You forget where you're at.
Like, wait, which book am I writing about? Her most recent book that's out now, it just came out like a couple months ago, right? It was
May. Yeah, May.
Is called Wake, Bake, and Meditate. And it's, and the subtitle is Take Your Spiritual Practice to a Higher Level with Cannabis. And it's a book that I stock in my shop at Parlor of Wonders. You can find it online, purchase it online. You can find it at all the usual places. And I always encourage people to buy their books from their mom and pop store. So whether it's me or another mom and pop, let them know that you're interested in this book. And if they don't have her book, you can request it. And guess what they usually do when that happens? If they order one for you, they'll probably order one for the shop as well. And so you're going to help Carrie out by doubling up the sales just by ordering through your local mom and pop. So that's a great way. Oh, it's
this is my black and white.
Aww.
This is my Farina.
Aw, so cute. It's kitty cat party.
She's 10, but she's compact, so she's our forever kitten.
Oh, so cute. We were having my little kitten, who's now thankfully resting and not yanking on my earphones or earbuds or anything right now. She was showing her to Carrie earlier, so we are having kitty cat fashion show, I guess.
Yep.
Carrie's a graduate of the University of Wisconsin. She earned her BA in communications, so did I, but not at the University of Wisconsin. She has been published in several magazines and newsletters, including The Blessed Bee, Sage Woman, PanGaia, Circle Magazine, and New Witch, and she runs the Pagan Review. She's a cancer survivor and holds a medical marijuana card in Illinois, where she lives with her husband, a son, 3 cats, 3 or 4 cats.
3 cats.
Oh, okay. And a plethora of critters. She's working to convert a portion of her land, of their land, into a spiritual sanctuary. You got a lot going on. You can find her through her website, which is kerriconnor.com. It's KerriConnor.com, which links to her Etsy shop for exclusive wake, bake, and meditate items. And Spell Squad, guess what? Kerri's got a special deal for you she's going to talk about in a second. So I'm going to put this link to her website so you guys can find it into the chat. There we go. And yeah, Kerri, welcome. I'm so glad to have you on the show.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Oh my gosh. Well, I want to talk to you a little bit about your book, because I've read your book and I love it and I stock it. And I think it's such an important merging of cannabis culture and magic. Like, people kind of think about those cultures as being very like, well, you're just a partier over here and I'm a very serious magician over here. But what we forget about is that, let's say, substances that create altered states of reality have been with us in magic since before written history, right?
Yeah. Long time.
So what inspired you to do this book? What was the inspiration?
I got high.
You got high and you went, I got this amazing idea.
I'm in the hot tub.
And you're like, I've got this amazing idea. I'm going to write a book about how to meditate with cannabis. That's going to be amazing.
That's literally, yes, that is literally what happened. Because I'm probably ADHD and was never diagnosed. But I have a brain that doesn't shut off. It goes nonstop. Because of it, I am a terrible insomniac, trying to get to sleep at night. I mean, it takes a whole lot of smoke to get me to sleep at night. But when I started using cannabis for medical reasons, and eventually I started learning, hey, this works for other stuff. And I realized I could meditate with cannabis. I could never meditate before. It was painful. It was downright painful to try. And when you try to do something and everybody tells you, oh, it's easy, you just do this and this and this, and you try to do those things and it doesn't work for you, it's very, very frustrating. And so I couldn't do it. And, you know, the harder it is to try to do it, then the harder it is for you to try to do it, if that makes sense. It's, you know you're going into it and it's already going to be tough. So you put up a wall that makes it even more difficult. And cannabis knocks down that wall. It helps you focus. It calms your mind. And I was suddenly able to meditate. And I'm like, okay, well, if I can do this, what else can I do? And I started working with it more and more. And then I said, I need to write a book.
Yeah. And it's an amazing, amazing book. I mean, I love I love this idea. Like, I think that like I said, there's like this sometimes it's very, I think it's like, honestly, I think it's kind of a carryover from our damage of having grown up in whatever traditional modern Christianity, Judaism, Muslim, Islam, or whatever we grew up with, which is the more traditional faiths or religions, or no religion. Or society, we can have some judgments about getting into altered states of reality. Well, that's just partying, or that's just this. We don't see it as something that can be a tool or can be used to open up to higher states of consciousness, Exactly.
And when I first started, learning about anything pagan, I mean, there were no resources. I was 16 years old and I lived in a town. The town I lived in is called Zion, Illinois. And it was literally created by a reverend as a halfway point between Chicago and Milwaukee to be the perfect Christian utopia. All the names of the streets were they're all Bible names. It was a dry town until really just a few years ago. So, I mean, for over 100 years, actually like 200 years, it was a dry town. And when I started trying to learn about magic, there were no resources. Literally, the only book in my public library was Ouija, the most dangerous game. And so I had to go to neighboring towns, and there wasn't any resources. But once you started getting a little bit of resources out there, cannabis was considered a very bad thing in the magical world, because that was, you were altering yourself and you weren't supposed to do that, and it had a bad rap. And I was, the fact that we talk about medical. We talk about medical a lot. We talk about recreational a lot, but we don't talk about the spiritual uses, which was one of the main uses for it. So I'm like, it's time.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's time.
Well, it's interesting because I think it's not a universal either, that in the sense that what's good for one person may not be, just like anything. Gosh, golly gee, you could say like, well, I don't know, cheese is good for you, but it's not good for this other person because they have an allergy to dairy. And so they can't eat it because it makes them sick. So you can't say universally cheese is bad or cheese is good, because it's almost individual for the person. So like, for example, I'll give you a great example is that I'll have a glass of wine, but I cannot have a glass of wine and do a reading for someone, because I can have fun with a glass of wine. I can relax. I can have a drink. But for me, a glass of wine shuts off my connection to my intuition and to my messages from my guides. It just shuts it off. So for me, that one, so other people I know, other readers I know, like, oh, I have a glass of wine and it just really opens up my intuition. So I don't say across the board, wine is bad, or wine is bad for if you're doing divination, or wine is good for divination. It's kind of like you have to,
depends on the person.
Exactly. See how it affects you in your whatever work you are doing. So if you're doing something like divination where you have to be connected, and for me, it's just like, oh, that whole connection shuts down. I could tell you that the cards mean, but I'm not getting any intuitive messages when I've had a glass of wine. So, so I think that we can say that it's not, everybody's experience with cannabis is going to be a different experience. And even different strains are going to have different experiences. You're going to have different experience with it. So the more knowledgeable you get about it, the more you can say, well, gosh, I have this indica and it's really good for me going into a very relaxed state and getting very meditative, but then I fall asleep or whatever, or I have this hybrid strain. And you get into that in your book, which I love, that you talk about almost like this, like a cannabis connoisseur. You're going, okay, like this one with this strain is, I like these strains for this kind of work. And I like this one for this kind of work. So I love that if there is someone who's coming at it from a cannabis connoisseur place, that they can all go, oh, wow, I know that strain, or I know how it makes it. Oh, and now here's a way I can use it. And vice versa, the person who is a spiritual practitioner who dabbles or is interested in bringing in cannabis in as a spiritual tool can go like, okay, well, I want to do this thing, but I don't even know where do I go when I go into the store? What should I use? So that can help them to sort of see which spiritual practices and which strains go together, which I loved about your book. That was so good. So good. So, do you want to get into some questions? Because I see we've got some questions. Sure. Are you ready to get into it? Okay. So let's see what we got. We've got, so we have a question from Jenner, and Jenner is saying, this is very interesting. When I read people who are high, it is not a pleasant experience. So she's talking about when she does a session for someone who is high, it hasn't been a pleasant experience for you. Have you done readings or anything like that when you've been high, or have you?
When I've been high, but they weren't.
Yeah.
So yes, I have been high, but the people that I was reading were not. I've never tried to read for somebody who's actually high at the same time.
Yeah.
It might just end up in a giggle fest, but
I know. Well, I would think that would be a really interesting, an interesting thing, because thinking back on all the readings I've done, I've done readings for people that have been, I know for a fact I've done it, because I've done readings. One of my first way that I started doing readings was doing readings at parties. And so parties, people are drinking, smoking, doing whatever. And what's interesting is I think that someone that's, I think it depends on what strain they're on too, and how high they are, but what I found is that they're more receptive, but they may not remember as much the next day.
True. They might not.
So
I've definitely done readings for people when they've been drinking, we recently, last year I did a wedding with my daughter. One of her friends had a Halloween themed wedding, and we did readings for like most of the guests, and they were they were all pretty happy. So
yeah,
but I think reading for somebody who's high, it's definitely going to depend on what they're high on, because a sativa is going to give you a much more energetic vibe from somebody than an indica is going to give you. And an indica would, it can be a little cloudy. So you could actually, I can see where it would be kind of difficult, I would think, to read for somebody while they are.
Yeah, I think what's interesting is if you're doing what I've noticed, is that when I have people that come as private clients to get a reading, they're generally wanting to be very present and wanting. Mm-hmm. Now I may have been with people that were high and I didn't know it. You know what I mean? Like if I'm on the phone, I may not know it, because I can't see any signs or whatever, and they're not acting in a way, there's no acting high, right? But I think what I really noticed is when I'm doing face-to-face sessions with people at a party, and there's always kind of the expectation that people are partying and doing whatever, mm-hmm. right? And I found that what happens is not with people that are high on cannabis, but people that are drunk want to stay at your table. Like they don't get the clue, like you're shuffling, you're like putting the cards back together again. Okay, our 5 minutes is up now. And they're like, but I had another question.
And there's exactly 10 people in line behind them.
Exactly. And you really kind of have to direct. But I find that with people that have been drinking alcohol, can't recall a time when I've had that problem with someone who's been high. And then I think I've had people that are, probably on ecstasy or things like that, who knows what they're on, their pupils are super dilated and all that. But they tend to also be paying enough attention that they know to get up from the table when you wrap the cards. Like, okay, we're done now. But the drunk ones don't know. I got one more question. Like, let me ask you another question. Oh my God, so, but, you take it all in good humor and it's all good fun at a party anyway. But I think that there's something about that process of being in an altered state that I think might theoretically, if you had smoked some cannabis and you were present for a reading, you might not remember every detail of that reading, but you might synthesize what was being said to you in a way that True. Might have a better, like a more bigger impact on you.
I can see that because, cannabis works a lot with your subconscious. So I could see where that could be true. That's actually interesting. Okay, I'm gonna have to get a bunch of people together.
Yeah, and see what
get everybody ripped and read them and see what happens.
Yeah, like I think that might be an interesting thing, because what would happen, I do think that what would happen, it's like the thing when you're in an altered state, right? I think about like shamanic work that I've done and so on. You're in an altered state, right? And so you might come back out of that shamanic vision and you might remember some things, but it's almost like coming out of a dream. You know how you mm-hmm. remember your dream right when you wake up, but then as the day goes on, you forget your dream, and then something will pop up and remind you of something of your dream. So it's integrated in some way. Yeah. So it's like integrated in some way. So I think that if you had a reading, if you had a reading while you were high and you were in, of course, in the, like that state of mind of being like receiving, you might get something that would have a different, different sort of subconscious work that's going on,
Yes.
rather than a reading where you're just getting conscious information, like real frontal cortex information.
I carry a notebook with me all the time.
Yeah, exactly.
Just so I can write stuff down, because
Yeah.
I know the memory isn't what it used to be.
Yeah. I know. I sit there, I do this thing. I tap my head. I go, think, girl. What were you just focusing on? Think. What is it that you're supposed to be doing right now?
I always told my kids I planned on hitting dementia at a young age just to get back at them. And
That's not a spell I would cast.
So I'm 50 now, and they're just like, but Mom, you said, and I'm like, I don't remember. I keep telling you, brain's gone. If you expect me to remember anything, that's your fault.
Exactly. Oh my gosh. So funny. All right. So, if I had a reading while high, so Helen has a question. If I had a reading while high, which is likely, would that affect you, the reader? Would it affect the reader?
It depends on the reader. I think that's going to totally depend on the reader, because I think that most readers would be able to pick up basically that person is in an altered state. I mean, not all readers, but I think a lot of readers would. I mean, it's intuition. You can feel it. The same as if they were on a sativa, they're going to give off a different energy than if they're using an indica. And I mean, we all know if you put a bunch of people in a room together and one of them's crying, you're all going to end up crying. But if you put a bunch of people in a room together and one's laughing, you're all going to end up laughing. You can pick up that energy.
I think too, thinking about it, like, I don't tend to think about, like, I said, like, oh, when I've done a reading, have I done a reading for someone's high? I guess I have, but I kind of look at each person that I'm reading for. It's not about that superficial thing, but how open they are. Mm-hmm. And what I call those, there's clients that I call it, I get to go on the magic carpet ride with them. There's some clients who are very open to, you can take them into supreme woo. You can go into very high spiritual talk about some very high level spiritual stuff with them. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's probably the experience that I have, or you have, or anybody would have with someone who was high when they're getting a reading, is that they're probably really, really, really open to talking about like high level spiritual stuff. Mm-hmm. Yes. Would you agree? I think so.
Oh, yes.
But then I'm just looking at them like, wow, that person really is open. That person's very open. And we can talk about these very expansive and high level spiritual things.
And just smoking weed makes you that person. It makes you more open. It brings down your walls. Yeah.
It's very interesting. I think that in my own, cannabis use, which is, is recreational, sometimes recreational, but mostly to sleep at night. I use indica drops to sleep at night. But when I find that some doesn't, I get paranoia, and I get anxiety and paranoia with certain strains. And so I have to be very careful, and indica's great for me. Like indica, like no problem, but some of the sativas will create a paranoia for me, or start overthinking, my brain starts spinning,
My favorite strain also gave me my absolute worst experience. It's giving me my best, and it's also giving me my worst. And I had gotten used to using it in a vape because I couldn't find the flower. And it was the Northern Lights. I love Northern Lights. So I was using it in a vape for a long time. And then they had flower, and I bought the flower, and I smoked the flower, and I woke up my husband, and I said, stay awake with me. And he said, what is wrong with you? And I said, this just didn't go right. It was terrible. And I was so paranoid. I was freaking out a little bit, and waking him up is like impossible to begin with because he's narcoleptic. So I made him get up and stay awake with me. until it started dissipating. But it's also my go-to. I love Northern Lights. It is my favorite, but it was also my worst too.
That's so interesting. Yeah, I think, is there I'm going to ask a little, see, I have all these curious questions for you too. Is there a deity associated with cannabis?
There's several. There's a lot of them. I mean, in Hindu religions and Indian religions, they have a lot because they had gods of it. Gods of ganja. I personally, my first experience with a deity while I was high was Ganesh is my butt. And I started working with him when I was diagnosed with cancer, and I was out in the hot tub getting high and he showed up, and it was a very wonderful, interesting, freak you out a little bit because, okay, am I nuts? Is this really happening? Because the first time things like that happen, you think you're crazy. You really think you're crazy, and you kind of laugh like, whoa, boy, that was some good weed.
Yeah, yeah.
And then it keeps happening. And then you realize it's like, you know what? I'm not crazy. I know I'm not crazy. I'm a really smart person. I've got degrees up the wazoo. I've got an IQ way up there. I was, the government tried to hire me 40 years ago to go and do things that I decided not to go do. But I'm not crazy. I know I'm not crazy. So I realized, okay, I'm not nuts. This stuff is real.
Yeah.
And when you can sit in the hot tub with Ganesh, you sit in the hot tub with Ganesh.
It's amazing. That's amazing.
Because you can. So why not?
Yeah, I think that openness of seeing what I call like seeing the spirit world. That's what I call seeing the spirit world, whether it's seeing an ancestor, a ghost of an ancestor or a spirit, or meeting a deity. All of these things are there, and it fairies, that's another one. All of these things are available to us, and it's the openness that you have. And if you can't get past that cognitive stuff, that substances will open you up, whether the substance is cannabis, if it's ayahuasca, if it's fly agaric, or if it's whatever, you know what I mean? Like it could be any mushroom, magic mushrooms, whatever.
Yep.
It's going to open up something for you, and then it will allow you to see something beyond the hologram of reality, you
Yes.
know? So beautiful. Okay, so Celeste wants to know, what magical properties does the flower hold, and is it masculine or feminine, or maybe masculine, feminine?
Flowers
no, feminine
are
would have to be
only
flower.
feminine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Flowers are only feminine, which is one of the reasons why I believe it is a gift from the goddess.
Mm.
It's the female plant that gives us the bud. We don't get buds off of the male plants. It's the female plant that gives us the bud. And as far as magical properties, I mean, it's magical in the fact that it does open you up. It transports you to where you want to go. It's a tool that you can use in so many different ways. There's not just one way to use it. There's many different ways to use it. You can use it for astral travel. You can use it for divination. You can use it for meditation. You can use it in your rituals. You can use it in your spell work. You can use it in everything you do. And I mean, it's got like every magical quality all wrapped into one. And I gotta say,
Yeah.
I grew up thinking that weed would kill you. This is what I was taught as a child. Weed would kill you. You do not smoke this, you will die. And then I had a brother that when I was, what grade was it? In between 7th and 8th grade, that summer, I discovered my brother was, he was hiding things in his room in the ceiling tiles. And I didn't know what they were. I just knew if you're hiding things in your room in the ceiling tiles, it's not good. So I told my cousin, and my cousin said, you have to tell your father. And it came out that my brother was one of the biggest cocaine dealers in the town. at the age
Whoa.
of 16. Yeah. He was working at a restaurant that everybody at the restaurant was selling it. He started there as a busboy, and I didn't know any of this. And he smoked some weed, but that wasn't his big thing. He was on cocaine. And so, I mean, they cracked down even harder after that. It was like, you never thought of doing anything. I never got high until I was a senior in high school, and my friends regretted it immediately. They had, wanted me to do it. But I mean, I grew up with a very different opinion of weed than what I have now. Very different opinion. I've had people tell me that I need to call up my first husband and apologize to that man because I wouldn't let him smoke weed and I would yell at him for it and all this stuff. I'm like, well, we're just gonna let that go. Okay, we'll just let that go.
Well, right now your ex-husband's looking at your book and going, see, I told you so.
The funny thing is, I don't think he smokes anymore because now he's an airplane mechanic. So
he can't. He probably has a P
I think
test.
we totally just switched places.
Well, I think about okay, here's an example. Tobacco is, so obviously people smoke tobacco, and you can smoke it ritually. You can smoke it as a cigarette, whatever you're doing, or pipe or whatever. But we can also use tobacco in spells for protection, for feeding the deities or something like that. Is there something that you would say, like a magical property that cannabis would have, like like it would be something for expansion, prosperity, love, sensuality?
All of the above.
Yeah.
All of the above. And I mean, what's a better offering? There's a lot of the gods that like that.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to remember, it's a plant.
Yeah.
It is a plant. So when we give offerings of other types of plants, we can give offerings of this too.
Yeah.
You don't want to give too much, especially if you live in a state like mine where it's really expensive. I live in the most expensive state. I do. I gotta say, I saw something in the chat where somebody asked about using the leaves of the plant and not the flower. I wanted to let you know really quick. There are female cannabis plants and there are male cannabis plants. A male cannabis plant will not flower. So it's not like parts of the plant are female and parts are masculine. All plants that flower are female. The ones that do not flower are male, but they do produce seeds. So if you wanted to work with a masculine plant, it would be a male plant, but there's not going to be any flower and there's not going to be THC either. So I just want to say that.
Yeah, there's a book about, are you allowed in Illinois to grow your own, or are you not allowed to grow
If you have a medical card, yes. If you're, and so I'm growing for the first time. It's not easy. It is so not easy.
It's not easy. I didn't try to grow. My boyfriend tried to grow and he didn't have any success. So, and then some people have great success. So I don't know.
Yeah. The first one I tried, it was going great. It was going wonderful. And then all of a sudden, overnight, it died. And I just harvested the first plant that has made it to flowers and everything, but I don't know if it's going to be any good. When you grow, you have these little things called trichomes, and that's how you can tell when it's ready. Is your trichomes are clear, and then they go cloudy, and then 2 weeks later they're supposed to turn amber. Well, mine turned cloudy 3 months ago. And they never went amber. And now the plants are finally starting to die off. So it's like, all right, we're just going to harvest this and see what happens. There's obviously, if it's cloudy, there's THC, but I have no idea how much. So I'm just going to dry it up and cure it and see what happens.
It's like, it's so interesting. Yeah, that's a way to build a relationship with any plant. I always tell people when they're trying to do magic with herbs, if they really, really, really want to get into it, you have to learn to converse with the plant and converse with the herb. Now you can converse with a dry herb and you can, sit in meditation with a dry herb, but if you really want to get to know that plant and you really want to get to know it as like a friend and an ally, growing that plant from seed or a seedling is going to give you more information about that plant than you can from just holding the dried thing. So you're getting more information about, I think, about the spirit of cannabis from trying to grow it, and you're like, oh wow. Now I will guarantee you, and tell me if I'm wrong, that Kerri has a new appreciation for cannabis because she tried to grow it and realized how hard it is.
I know it's hard, and I still wish it was cheaper here, but it's not easy. It is not easy. And we have a special grow tent that I bought and all the lights. I mean, just the hookup I have is like a $500 investment. And that's before you even start with seeds.
Yeah.
And I was going to put in a greenhouse this year. And then I decided I was going to go with the grow tent and see what happened. And like $500 grow tent, $5,000 greenhouse.
Yeah.
Let's see if I can do this first.
Yeah, exactly. We've got some folks that are like, so Jenner and Natalie and Celeste are like, I decided to watch this session high. Me too. I rolled a fatty to enjoy this one.
That's okay. I decided to do it high.
And Helen's like, me too. So we have everybody. This is great. You'll absorb a lot from this one, and you'll incorporate it into your
as a medical user, I smoke constantly. And I used to work at one of the greatest stores in the entire world. It was a Barnes and Noble. And I'll tell you what, the people I worked with, they are my family. And our store closed down almost a year ago. We lost our lease. And the store closed, and a bunch of them went on to a different store. And I was invited to go with. And I said, you know what? I'm going to start trying to write full time. And they knew I was working on my book, and they were all like, yes, okay, you do that. And it's really hard to discover from working. You would think that when I was working that I would have smoked less because I was working. It turns out that I smoke less now that I'm not working, even though I smoke it all the time, because I do what they call microdosing, basically. I'll take 2 or 3 hits, and then an hour later, I'll take another hit, and then another hour later. But it comes out to be less than what I was smoking before because, I didn't go to work high. I'd come home from work, and by that time, my back would be hurting, I'd be stiff, and I would smoke 3 bowls just to get rid of the pain. Now I don't have to get rid of the pain. I cut it off before it starts.
That's so great.
So I don't have to smoke as much, but I smoke all the time. And I'll have friends like, are you high? I'm like, yeah. They're really?
Always.
Yeah. They honestly, most of my friends can't tell at this point anymore if I'm high or not, because I'm kind of kooky all the time anyway.
Hey, that just made me think of something related. So kind of a little cannabis in the news thing. Have you heard the information that they find that they aren't sure, but there's some, either it's CBD or some other quality of cannabis that's helpful with COVID. Have you read that?
Oh, yes. That they're saying that at first it originated, I think it was in Canada, that they said that they thought it was actually helping prevent it. And I'm like, that's great. I'll smoke even more.
That's so great. Yeah, I think that's fabulous.
I'm a cancer survivor, and I have like every autoimmune disease pretty much under the sun. I do not have lupus, but I am a carrier, and I have like symptoms of lupus, but I don't actually have full-blown lupus. I have arthritis, I have severe arthritis, I have ankylosing spondylitis, I have fibromyalgia. So I have like all this crap. The things I have going for me to not get COVID is I'm a female, I have O positive blood, and I smoke a lot of weed.
Yeah. There you
And
go.
when I was like, okay, well, I'll be a test subject on that. I'll just keep smoking and just don't expose me.
Yeah, exactly. So Holly has a question. She says, I've never enjoyed recreational cannabis, but smoking before sex has taken the intimacy to a totally different level. Can you speak to the connection between cannabis and sex?
Oh, yeah. Well, because it brings down those walls and it makes the blood flow, so it makes everything better.
Yeah, yeah.
it that's literally, I mean, it's another reason why it's got to be a gift, because if you smoke weed and it makes sex better, doesn't that kind of mean it's supposed to? It's
Yeah, I
not,
mean,
people don't smoke weed and then say, oh God, that sex sucked. That does not happen. It simply doesn't happen. People don't say that. They don't say, oh gosh, the worst sex I ever had was when I was high. Nobody says that. Nobody.
well, I think about, if you think about it in some way, the opening up, if you, let's say, for example, someone has only used it recreationally, and they've had that experience of using it recreationally and then having sex, and they've said, wow, that was amazing, that sex was mind-blowing, it was amazing. Well, that mind-blowing aspect of that, I think, almost translates directly to the mind-blowing aspect of your spirituality, your spiritual awakening, your spiritual awareness. It can you can almost see the correlation between those two. It's not a sensual physical thing, but it's the mind part of it opening up because of that.
Yeah. And it's like, it's not only that, but it takes your mind off other things. I mean, women know. Oh my God, is he going to see this? Is he going to look at that? You don't think about that kind of stuff when you're high. When you are high, it is about the moment. It is about the pleasure. That other stuff that goes on in your mind is gone. So it intensifies everything. It makes it a better experience.
Let's talk a little bit about your book too, because in your book you give meditations and guidelines for like different things. Give some examples of some of the things that you talk about for the people that are watching, what they
for
can
meditate. Well, like what types of meditations do you mean?
Yeah, like what would they, like if someone got your book, what would be an example of like something that they would, how they could use it or what they would get out of it, or what they could.
Some of the very first ones I talk about is connecting to deities and connecting to a female deity and connecting to a male deity, because I know a lot of people want to be able to do that and they can't. It's sort of like that same thing with meditating. You just can't get yourself there. When you can get yourself there and you open the door to all these different things, you can learn things that you didn't think you'd learn. If you look behind me, you see that statue up there? You know what it is? That's blow-to-wet. And I was not somebody who, when I first started learning about paganism, I was 16 and I didn't know much about it. And then I had my kids, I had twins when I was 21, and I went right into that mother role. And that's when I started learning a lot more about paganism, was after I had children and I was already in that role of the mother. So I kind of missed that whole role as the maiden. I didn't get to have that. I didn't have that in my life. And then boom, I am a grandma of 9 grandkids now. I'm 50. I hit menopause when I was 42 years old. I am like epitome of crone. I fit all of that. And one day in the hot tub, I love
That's a magical hot tub. That's a cauldron, not a hot tub.
Exactly. I had this incredibly strong floral scent. And I'm like, what the heck? And I used to hate the smell of roses. I always hated the smell of roses. And to have this scent come on, it was like so overpowering, but at the same time, I was okay with it. It didn't hit me the way it used to. And I actually think it's the next Witch's Companion that comes out. There's an article I wrote about going back and getting in touch with your maiden as a crone, because a lot of us are at that age where when we started learning about paganism, especially for women, we missed that whole maiden thing. And I know I'm not the only one, just because of how things worked and how somebody the other day who said, what did you guys do before stores and online? Exactly. We went to Goodwill to see what we could find to use as tools. That's what we did.
Yeah.
We did not have the access to things that we do now. And so I know a lot of us that are around my age, we missed that role as maiden. And to be able to go back and do that now, I don't think that ever would have happened for me without cannabis. But and honestly, having the cancer was a big thing that kind of pushed me into that too. Because when you get to a certain age and you realize you're going to die, things don't mean the same thing anymore. They just don't. It's like, you know what? I'm 50. If I'm lucky, I've got another 40 years. I'm going to make damn sure they're good ones.
Yeah.
You know? And so I do things now that I probably would never have done before. I go out, I dance under the full moon every full moon, and I have friends come over and we do that. And I started full moon dances, and to me, that is really a much more maiden thing kind of do. You don't see a whole lot of crones out dancing anymore because we're crones. We don't dance. We're not supposed to. Screw that. I will dance.
Exactly.
I will dance till I am 96 if I live to be 96. It's about incorporating little bits and pieces from everything. And that's why I say I'm very eclectic, because I've studied all different things for years. And for a long time, it was okay, it's Wicca, it's Egyptology. I was Druid for a while. I studied fairy. And I feel more comfortable taking what I need when I need it. I said, Ganesh got me through cancer. He is the god of overcoming obstacles. Of course I wanted him by my side. The Morrigan, she's a good one for me too, because she's kind of a battle goddess there. So when you need to kick some butt, you call on her.
Yeah.
But so that's why I work from all of these different areas, and I've just learned that we're all such unique people. And I find a lot of people who do this now, the longer they are involved in learning about paganism, the more they tend to become eclectic.
I think there's that aspect of it where you resonate with certain things, and not everybody's going to resonate with something. And one of the things that I love about the path of magic and the path of the witch, I'll call it the path of the witch, is that it's not like there's this is the thing I've always resented about organized religion. It's like there's somebody on high saying, you need to do it this way, and you need to follow these rules. And what I sort of think about when I think of magic is, I can't tell you what's right for you. I can tell you what's right for me.
Yes.
I can tell you what works for me, but I can't tell you let's say, for example, this one comes up a lot. Can I do coercive magic? Can I do magic that is superimposing my will over someone else's will? I say to that person, I can't tell you for you. You've got to decide for you that that's okay or not okay. Your ethics are your business. This is not an organized religion where somebody's saying to you, you must, or you cannot, or you do this, or you do that. When it starts to get into that, never, never, never do coercive magic. I go, really? Because there's lots of people who do coercive magic.
Yeah.
I go,
and they wouldn't even necessarily call it that. But, anytime you bind somebody,
anytime you're doing a
even
spell
if
on
it's
anybody else, it's coercive.
It's still coercive. Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, like if I do a healing spell for you and you didn't ask for a healing spell, that's coercive magic, because I want you to heal. That may not be your will. You know what I mean? So this idea that I always think about very, very first before anyone gets started in any magical path, and this also has to do with, working with cannabis. It's like you get to decide for you. If cannabis or any other tool works for you, then you get to decide that it works for you. And if it doesn't work for you, you don't go around like a Puritan going, well, it's bad that you're doing that because it's not, maybe it's not for you. Great. Live and let live. If it works for another person, let it be.
Exactly.
You know?
And I think the more you study, I think the more people realize that.
Yeah, exactly. The older witches and the more experienced witches.
30 years ago, it was very much anything you studied. It was, you have to do this, you have to do that. And no, you don't.
Yeah.
You really don't.
So it's nice to have like what I think of as this big smorgasbord out there of information, folk magic practices. I mean, I'm very low magic. I don't do high magic. I don't high magic, right? I don't do, but I don't do these, very ceremonial things. That's not my style, but it doesn't mean I don't think of that as bad or wrong, or it's just not for me. Right. And so someone could look at what I'm doing and go, well, that's, whatever, but it's really, that's their mirror projecting back on them. Doesn't matter. So when someone says, for example, we were talking earlier before you got on, I was saying the example of like, sometimes people ask questions and I don't know anything about it. Cause you ask something like, if you guys in the spell squad are asking things like, how do you conjure a demon? I'm like, I don't conjure demons. If someone wants to conjure a demon, more power to them. You go to town, you conjure all the demons you want. I can't say to someone, don't do that. Exactly. You're going to, in my opinion, I'm like, boy, be careful what you're messing around with, but that's just my opinion. So it's the same thing with like breakup spells, for example. I very, 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 very rarely will do a breakup spell for someone. And usually what my guides will tell me, because it's about my connection, and as it is for you, I'm sure, your connection to your divine higher self, higher powers, or whatever you want to call it. They go, you can do a breakup spell if the spell is an established couple that has a connection, there's children involved, and there's some other third party that we're trying to stop. That they say there's occasions when that makes an appropriate sense. So it's not even like black and white, like never, never, never do a breakup spell.
Black and white.
Exactly. Never, never, never do a breakup spell. No, it's just that you do it on a very judicious basis, and you only do it when there's like extreme need because there's no other option and no other recourse, that you need to get rid of this third party that is in a monogamous relationship or breaking up a monogamous relationship. So I think about those things as being like the personal gnosis of your experience is so beautiful, because it's also showing people, it's like, yes, you have all these tools. Here's my experience of working with cannabis in a spiritual practice. You can try these things out. See if they work for you. See if they make your expand your consciousness or bring you to higher spiritual levels. And if they do, great. And if they don't, that's great too, because you're going to find the thing that does, And I think that's the beautiful thing about our practice as witches and practice as magical practitioners, is that we get to kind of customize it for ourselves, that we don't have to take something off the shelf. This is bad. This is good.
We're all so different that it wouldn't work. It just wouldn't work. It would be like if we were all wearing the same clothes, we were all in uniforms. It's no. Yeah. We all did the same thing. No, you can't. We're all very unique, different people, and our practice has to reflect that. Otherwise, it's never going to work for you.
Well, I think that's what organized religion kind of messes up, is the fact that they're trying to make everybody wear the same uniform. Yeah. And some people need, I can't say a younger soul is going to need some regimentation or some rules, because the world is too expansive and they need to have a smaller space. But when you are an older soul, you want the biggest, most expansive space. So you want to be able to make your own decisions for yourself and, have that. So beautiful. Let's take one more question. And then, Jenner, who has said to reading for someone is difficult, said, for me, it's not that they're high. It's usually what's attached to them that gets weird. Interesting, because this brings up a topic that's probably going to take us over a few minutes to discuss. But I say that when we partake of something that's altering in some way, alcohol, cannabis, mushrooms, we are opening up to a spirit. And I think it's really, or let's not even talk about substances. If you're working on a talking spirit board, if you're doing automatic writing. All of these things open us up to the spirit world. And when you go into the spirit world, it's important, who are you inviting to come in your front door, right? Are you just going to open up your front door and leave the house and let any stranger walk in? Or are you going to be intentional about who you're inviting to come in? So whenever I do work, like talking spirit board work, for example, Ouija board work, I set the parameter of I'm only inviting in. Yeah, exactly. I'm only inviting in spirits of the highest vibration who are going to give clear information and helpful information, and who come with the spirit of love. So because of that, I only have great information when I do a talking spirit board.
Exactly.
When I was 13 years old and going, let's play Ouija board, you would get all kinds of crazy trickster spirits writing all kinds of crazy things.
Yep.
So when you're working with cannabis as a ritual tool or as a tool for expansion, what's your process in kind of on the front end, on the runway of this? Do you do any kind of work to say, I'm opening up to higher spiritual consciousness, and here are the parameters? You probably don't do that anymore now because you've been doing it for so long, but when you're initially starting, are there things that
honestly, when I first started, I didn't ask for anything to come. It just showed up. So it took a while to realize that I should do that. Literally. Because I mean, you go back to the spirit board. I mean, that's how I became pagan. Literally was using a Ouija board was my first step to becoming pagan. And I think there is a whole generation, especially of women, who it's true for them, because we played with Ouija boards when we were teenagers.
Yeah.
It was the thing to do back then. But no, I didn't think about that for a long time. And when I'm using cannabis to do it, I ask who wants to come. Who wants to come, and see who shows up, and then we decide if they're going to stick around or not. So it's almost like a phone call. It's like my ring. It's like my ring on my front door. You push the button, I check to see who you are, and if I don't want to answer the door, I won't. And if I do want to answer the door, well, then I come and open the door.
Oh, that's a great analogy. That's a great analogy. So you're doing it in a way of like saying, let's invite the spirits in, and then I'm going to see, do you come through the doorway, and do we do work together? Yeah, that's an amazing and cool way to kind of be very, very open about it.
It's like screening your calls.
Yeah, screening your calls. I mean, I'm a little more of a control freak, so I'm saying I don't want any weirdos ringing my doorbell. So only good people, any good spirits can come forward. Any good deities.
Back in the day with the spirit boards, there were several weirdos.
I know. I've been there, girl. I've been there. So it's about that. So I think about, like, I mean, when I think about this, and I think you would agree with this, it's like, how do we live in a mindful and intentional way? Every single thing we do can be done with intention. And it doesn't have to be that we're, anal about it, or that we're doing it with every single thing. But when you make your cup of tea, can you put some intention of, oh, I want this tea or this water to bring me health. I want it to bring me happiness, peace, love, prosperity, whatever. That's your spell, and that's then your potion. And and as cannabis, as a potion, you can put the intention that you want to do. Oh, I want to do some work to gain enlightenment, or I want to do some work to enjoy the sensual pleasures of the lovemaking that I'm about to do, or I want to do some work to open up my mind to vast creativity. It's like you can set an intention before you do the work with any herb or any flower or any plant or any whatever, and do that like a spell before you get started. And you can set a beautiful intention of inviting spirits that are great and amazing, that are going to help you, that are going to be clear in their messages and expand your spiritual consciousness. So it's very cool.
And one of the biggest things I like to do in the hot tub is I will ask who needs to come and tell me something, who has a message for me, what do I need to learn today? And that helps whoever's going to show up. You know, so it is an intention. It's like, I need to learn something today. Who wants to be my teacher? And that's who comes. Shows up at my ring.
I love it. I love it. Well, where time is, can you believe that was an hour? It went so fast.
No,
Huh?
really?
I know. Is that crazy?
Oh my gosh. You gotta be kidding.
I know. It's so crazy how fast it goes. It was such a delight having you on, Kerri. This was such an enlightening conversation. I think this is a lot of amazing information that people are going to have. Oh, we didn't tell people about the special in the beginning, but we're going to tell them about it now. Okay. But this is amazing information that people can find out more about in your book. And her book is called Wake, Bake, and Meditate. It's up on my store. You can find it there in the book section. There we go.
I gotta give my daughter credit, because my daughter actually came up with the Wake, Bake, and Meditate name.
I love that. I love that. It's so great. And it's a great, I think it's a very non-denominational book. I mean, it really is a book that I think anybody who wants to have a more spiritual experience with cannabis, it's not like this is this is a pagan book, or this is a Buddhist book. It's a really,
and I say that in there. I'm pagan, but you do not have to be to use this book. And it's like when it gets to things like, well, if you don't believe that there is a feminine and a masculine, well, skip one of those. You don't have to do every single meditation in the book if it's not something you believe in. Obviously, it's not going to do you any good to do a meditation for something you don't believe in.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think you can learn, you can adapt it to whatever fits for you, but there's so much great information for anybody across the board. I think you're going to get a lot of kind of inspiration on how you can more consciously use cannabis in your spiritual practice. If I were to say what it's about really about consciously using cannabis as a spiritual practice, not just as a recreational thing, not just as a pain relieving thing or medical thing, but actually getting into, what does it mean to bring cannabis into a spiritual practice? And what is it, and what can you do with it? And you've done all the experimentation and the footwork, so you don't have to have, you guys out there that get the book won't have to reinvent the wheel. You can just sort of go, oh, okay, all right, I'll try this thing and see how it works for me. So you can do that as well. So it's really lovely. Well, you got a special going on. You've got an Etsy store, right? So if they go to kerriconnor.com, they can click onto your Etsy store.
Yep.
And then what are you selling on your Etsy store, and what's the special for everyone?
I have, my books are up there. I also have, I work with a wonderful young lady that is a part of the Gathering Grove. She's went to school with my daughter, so I've known her since she was like 13, and she's going on 30. And she has a business called Starkeeper Illustration. She's an illustrator, and she and I came up with the Wake, Bake, and Meditate logo. So we have water bottles, we have notepads, there's t-shirts, just little goodies like that you can get. It's got an awesome Wake, Bake, and Meditate on it. So I have all that up there, and starting tomorrow, I will have the code in for Smoke Me. You'll get 15% off of your purchase, and all of it's free shipping.
Smoke Me, all capitals? Does it matter?
Do all caps. We'll do all caps.
Okay.
That sounds good.
I put it in the chat, you guys. Smoke Me is going to be your code to get a discount on all the amazing things that she has there up on her site. You got to go check it out. Go to kerriconnor.com and you'll click over to her shop and you'll see all about that.
Fun stuff.
It was such a delight to have you on. When is your next book coming out?
The next one will be next April, just in time for 420. And it is 420 meditation. It's literally 420 meditations. There's one for every day of the year by, actual calendar date. But then there are other ones, because obviously there's only 366 days in a year when you include leap year. But it has like your birthday. It has for the full moons. It has for the new moons. It has for the Sabbats. Ones to do with the chakras. I can't think of the other ones right now.
That's a lot of meditations. That's amazing. Oh, I love that.
I had a lot of fun doing it, because not only every month you get a variety of different types. There's we work with music for just different natural sounds as a meditation. So you have a different one each month that has a different natural type sound, like waterfalls or owls or wolves. You work with herbs each month, because you know what you can do? You can add herbs to your weed and smoke it. And there's some great ones that you can do. I love lavender. Lavender with weed, it's awesome. Peppermint with weed is also really nice. For the fall, I love to throw in some thyme. It's like, it's just this great fall rich taste when you throw in some thyme. It just gives it a completely different, it's completely different. The whole thing about it is completely different when you add different herbs. We work with crystals, different stones each month. Foods. When you smoke a bowl and you try to eat something, it's amazing how different things taste, because it broadens all of your senses so much that it's a different experience when you eat high. So we work with food, we work with trance dance. Every month there is a trance dance, which I love to do. You just get high and dance. What is better?
It's so great.
Crank up some music, get high, and dance. We should all do that every day. Well, I do, but
I love
I'm
it.
not sure what the neighbors think. Luckily, in the summer, they can't really see me because we have a pretty big backyard and a lot of trees. But I know in the fall, when those leaves are gone, and in the spring, my neighbors are like, "What is she doing on her deck?" Because just about every night I dance on my deck. Because why not?
I love it. Because life is meant to be lived, right? Life is meant to be lived.
And it took me almost dying to figure that out. And it was, it wasn't the cancer I almost died from. I had breast cancer, and after that, I did this biggest mistake of my entire life, because I was vain. I used to be a G, okay? G. And I got cancer, and they took a large chunk out of my left breast, and I was lopsided, obviously, and I was a G, so bad back. And I said, you know what, let's go ahead and even these babies out. And they took me down to a C, and I almost died from the infection I got. I was on a PICC line for 8 months, getting antibiotics through a PICC line, and now it is a you don't want to see it.
Oh,
it is a twisted, warped, scarred, looks like head cheese mess. And I was vain, and I wanted to be even and look good and all of that. And now I have a prosthetic boob that I pop into my bra, and I'm so much happier about it.
Yeah.
Because I've learned from all of that these really don't mean anything. They really don't mean half of what people think they do. And it was a terrible experience, but I mean, at the same time, it opened my eyes to so much more.
Yeah. And you aren't your body. You aren't your, no. You are, your spirit is not your body. It's just a vehicle.
You learn, you learn a lot when you almost croak, and you learn that life is short, and I don't want to spend my life looking at Google Earth. I want to spend my life looking at Earth. So after that, I started traveling a lot more and doing the things that I want to do. And dancing every night on the deck is one of those things.
Well, I think I'm going to end this with what Celeste says. Celeste says, thank you. Everyone, let's get high and dance. My literal life statement. I love that. All right. Thank you so much, Kerri. Oh my gosh, it was so amazing having you here. Best of luck with the new book. I know what you're going through and all that stuff that you're going on, writing the books and doing all that. And everyone, check out Wake, Bake, and Meditate. You can find it on, all the usual places. You can find it on Kerri's site. I've got it up on my site, and you can find it all the usual places. Your local mom and pop bookstore.
If you find me on Facebook, my Carrie Connor author on Facebook, and I do have a Wake, Bake, and Meditate Facebook group where we, talk a little bit more about things when you want to, and just ask any questions. And
love that. It's a place they can connect with you. I love that. Yes. Thank you so much, Kerri. Have a great evening. Go out and dance now. Are you going to go out and dance now?
Yeah. It's
I love it.
After
It's dance time, everybody.
Gotta get out the mosquito spray. And
Oh my gosh. Next week we'll be here again. We'll be back again. Next week, our guest next week is going to be Joseph James. My dear, I call him my witch husband. He's in England. I've got a real boyfriend. He's not, we'll say Joseph James is gay, so he's not going to ever be my real husband. But we were talking about it because I wanted to get my UK passport at one time. But anyway, he is my adorable friend and an amazing practitioner. And he also does coaching about money and prosperity. So he's going to talk about prosperity and magic. We're going to have an amazing time next week. So please join us next Sunday when we do that. I love you guys. You Spell Squad guys are amazing. I love you being here. Thank you so much for joining me. And we'll see you next week on the 19th when my guest will be Joseph James. Thank you again, Kerri. You're amazing. And have a great dance tonight. Okay?
thank you.
Dance it up, girl.
Thank you. Thanks everybody for coming in.
All right. We'll see you guys next week. Bye-bye.